We'll get started here in just a second. Kentucky fan on the show today. We'll be on in just a second. Good morning. Oh my God, somebody made an account called Butch Jones Jumbotron Picture. He said, please send help. Word on the street from Knoxville is that help's on the way, sir. Woo! Yeah, Orlando, it's sad. No excuse to still have that picture of Butch Jones up 3 months after he was fired. That's pathetic. Good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, live for you on LouTube today. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And two, thanks for joining us today on the Uncle Lou Show live. This is episode 9, I think it is. So we've been doing this for, I don't know, at least a month or so now. We do this 2 days a week, every Monday and Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern. We go for about an hour. I try to have a guest or a co-host on to start the show. We do have one today from Kentucky. We'll get to him in just a second here. Then we'll talk about a couple of things. We'll talk about Kentucky today with him for a while. Then we're going to talk about this Fulmer, Butch Jones, Pruitt situation in Knoxville. And I want to talk about the Saban house. And I'll explain what that means here in just a few minutes. And then we're going to, as always, we're going to end the show with your phone calls. Try to get in at least 30 minutes worth of phone calls today. That's what everybody likes. Let's just call it what it is. Before I bring the guest on, I see there is someone in the comment section saying that there's a school shooting in Georgia. I guess it must have just happened. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. It's at Dalton High School. So I hope everybody's okay. I really don't know anything about it other than what I'm reading here live in the comment section, that I guess someone's reporting a school shooting in Georgia at Dalton High School. So we hope everybody's okay there. If anybody in the comment section hears anything more about that, please let us know. And again, we hope everybody is okay there. But let's get started. Like I mentioned, we do have a guest on the line to start the show today, Kentucky fan. I'm going to bring him on, talk a little bit about Kentucky, and then we're going to keep him on to talk about these other issues too. And then we'll let him go, and the rest of the show will be phone calls. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, from Kentucky, Jeff M. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Lou. How we doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Now, you're a Kentucky fan. And we're coming up on the end of the regular season in basketball, so we're going to get to football. Obviously, we'll get to football here in a second. I've got the Kentucky schedule. We'll pull it up on screen so everybody can take a look at it, and we will get to football. But since the end of the regular basketball, or since the end of the basketball season is coming to an end here, let's start off talking about that now. It's no surprise to me, and I don't think any surprise to anybody that follows college basketball at all, that Kentucky is one of the youngest teams in America. They always are, right? They recruit these one-and-done guys. It's been the subject of a lot of controversy, should that even be allowed. And, of course, Kentucky has targeted these elite recruits who tend to be the one-and-done type of talents that come to Kentucky. They play for 1 year, really, really good, and then they bolt to the NBA. So they're really, really young. Started out a little bit slow, which is kind of to be expected. I know a lot of times Kentucky has 5 freshmen on the floor, so no surprise that they started out slow. Just give us your overall take so far on what you think about Kentucky's season so far and where they're at now, getting ready to head into the SEC tournament.
Well, you got to be honest with the situation. It's been a disappointing season. I mean, you start out that slow. The only way they're going to be able to recoup this season, Lou, is to make a deep tournament run. Do I think they can make a deep tournament run? Absolutely. Do I think they will? Probably not. And here's the thing. We've been dealing with Cal for about, I'd say, close to 10 years now, believe it or not. And the thing about Cal is this. You get what you're getting, and you're getting freshmen. Freshmen, it's very, very rare for a team of freshmen to win the national title. Very rare. We saw it years ago with the Fab Five. I'd say most of your viewers aren't even old enough for that, Lou, but I know you and I are. I'm sure you remember the Fab Five. But since then, Lou, Kentucky has had 1 title under Cal. 1 title. And on that title year, Cal didn't have just a bunch of freshmen. Cal had, a senior. Cal had a couple of sophomores that were elite. And the thing about the freshmen that year, you have Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. That's the top 2 overall draft picks of that year. So, Lou, when you're looking at it, if Cal didn't have that once-in-a-generation type player in Anthony Davis, would he have a title at Kentucky?
Right. You know, you bring up an interesting point about the leadership, and this is something that gets overlooked not just in basketball but in football too. Sometimes, and a lot's been made of Georgia's transition from this past season going into this next season and losing 31 seniors. And you know, not all those seniors started, not all those seniors played a lot, but you do get a certain amount of leadership value from seniors that you just can't get from a freshman, no matter how talented they are. And if you go back to that Fab Five from Michigan, and I'll admit I'm not a huge basketball fan, so if I get some of these details wrong, you can correct me, or somebody in the comment section can correct me. But the way I remember it is they made the championship game against, I think it was it Duke? And and Michigan lost. And what was one of the something huge happened at the end of that game that caused Michigan to lose. A freshman called a timeout when they didn't have any timeouts to call, which was a technical foul. Am I remembering that right?
Well, what you're thinking of is actually the Fab Five's second year.
Okay.
Yes, their first year they played Duke and got hammered. In their second year, they played North Carolina, and a guy by the name of Chris Webber was elite. Would be a one and done today. Called a timeout at the very end of that game, and it was a technical foul because they had no timeouts left, therefore costing Michigan the title.
Okay. Yeah, so I do remember that. I just got I was off by 1 year on that. So leadership is a huge deal. And you know, we've seen Kentucky, I don't know if struggle is the right word to use, but we've seen Kentucky start out as one team in November and December when they're breaking all those young guys in, and turn into an elite juggernaut type team by February and March. And we really haven't seen that this year. I don't want to say they haven't gotten any better. Obviously they have. All teams, I think, get a little bit better over the course of the year. But I think a lot of people were counting on the fact in November and December when they were struggling that, okay, they're young. By the time tournament time comes around, they'll be clicking on all cylinders. And from what I've seen from Kentucky this year, and again, I don't watch every Kentucky game, they don't look as good. And you've mentioned just the one title, but they don't even look as good to me as Kentucky teams, you know, in recent memory here.
Well, and here's the thing about that, Lou. What a lot of people don't realize about people here in Kentucky is, I'd say about 70 to 75% of Kentucky basketball fans are getting sick of Cal's shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. They're getting sick of it. He is not the most. You know, a lot of people that don't know about Kentucky think Cal just is like the governor of this state. You know, that couldn't be anything further from the truth. A lot of people are getting sick of it, and you know, I can't lie. I'm getting sick of it too. You know, I want to see some of these guys stick around.
Right.
I want to see some of these guys, you know, graduate and make it to the NBA. You know, I'm tired of this coming in, you know, almost using Kentucky for publicity and then going off to the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, like my personal perspective, like coming from more of a football fan type point of view, I know how excited I get when somebody like a Nick Chubb and a Sony Michel say, hey, guess what? We're going to come back for our senior year. Now, that's after they've already been there 3 years. I can't imagine having to deal with the, you know, indecision of not knowing whether freshmen are even coming back for their sophomore year. It reminds me, you know, I quit watching baseball a long time ago because I was a Braves fan, and I would watch one season, and then the next season the roster would be totally different. You know, free agency to me ruined baseball. People were leaving and getting traded, and the team was so different from year to year. I just completely lost interest. And with these one and dones, the formula that Kentucky's using, it's got to be a similar feeling to that as a fan. I mean, why go out and buy a jersey? The guy's going to be gone the next year. You know what I mean? Do you feel that kind of way about it too?
You know, exactly. You know, Lou, when I was a kid, you know, a Kentucky player would be there for 3 or 4 years. I'll never forget when I was a kid, you know, going to some games in February and March, and going with my dad and getting a jersey of, you'll say a Jamal Mashburn, you know, and that jersey would be good. That would be valid for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
You know, you'd see these kids improve, grow into men, and graduate college.
Yeah.
And really, with the one and done system, it's really not even college basketball. It's I'm going to play here. I'm going to get publicity because I'm at Kentucky. I'm going to play in the nicest facilities, and then I'm going to go pro.
Right.
It's just almost like I heard you talk about earlier. You don't want payers played in college football, and I couldn't agree more because it's not going to be college football. It's going to be semi-pro football.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that is almost what's happening here in Kentucky. And another thing too, Lou, I want to touch up on. When Cal first got here, he would get the elite of the elite. Now, he's almost getting the hand-me-downs from Duke. Duke is going out there, and they're getting the best of the best. They're getting who they want. And whoever Duke doesn't want is coming to Kentucky or Kansas or UCLA. Duke really right now is where Cal was at when Cal was getting the Anthony Davises, the Michael K. Gilchrist type players. And as Kentucky fans, we're thinking to ourselves, well, if we're going to get these players that are one and done, we're going to watch them for a half a year. Let's at least get the best players so we can at least have some excitement. Let's at least get the John Walls.
Right.
But now we're getting the I don't want to put no names out there, but we're getting pretty much the second tier type guys, the lower 5, upper 4-star recruits. And now we're saying, well, these guys better stay because they're going to go to the NBA. They're going to play for 1 year, and then they're going to be completely gone, forgotten. And they're going to have no college education.
Right. Right. I obviously, as a Georgia basketball fan, I don't have to worry about the whole one and done thing. We don't have anybody good enough to go after 1 year. But I want to make it clear too. I'm not blaming. I hate the one and done system. I'm not blaming the players for this. I mean, they don't create the system. You know, the system is what it is. The rules are put in place by people way above the players' pay grade. So I don't blame the players. They're just playing the cards that they're dealt. They're playing the system the way it's set up. But as I'm speaking as a fan of a team, I don't know. I wouldn't like it. But anyway, enough about basketball. Good luck to your Kentucky Wildcats in the tournament. But let's move on to football now. And I've got the Kentucky schedule. I'm gonna move it over to the screen now so everybody can see it. Give me just a second here.
I'll take a look at that too. I haven't seen it.
All right, here we go. Here's the schedule. So per usual, we see a lot of this in the SEC. Starting out with a nobody really, Central Michigan. Not a pushover though. Central Michigan, a game I would think though that Kentucky can win, but way better than Georgia's opponent, Austin Peay. Central Michigan is, but I think Kentucky can win that game. So we're not going to spend any time on that.
Okay.
But what is the week 2? Is that Florida? Week 2? Okay. You get Florida week 2. Now, you got to play them in Florida this year. What a brutal we have to talk about the Kentucky-Florida game from last year for a second. What a brutal loss as a Kentucky fan. It's been, 31, 32 years. You haven't beat Florida. You've got Florida absolutely beat at home. The stadium is going nuts. I mean, they're getting ready to probably level that place if Kentucky wins that game. And Kentucky sends 10 men out on defense and puts nobody on a wide receiver. I mean, there was nobody within 15 yards of that wide receiver, and it was literally like practicing against air. Florida hiked the ball through it, touchdown, game over. What a brutal way to lose a game, and I actually felt bad for the fans, but the coaching staff too, and I know they caught a lot of heat for that. But man, it couldn't have happened to a worse. You know, if that would have happened against Vandy, Mizzou, even Tennessee, Georgia, but Florida's just that one game that Kentucky's had circled forever in a day because of the losing streak that you guys have, and you just have been close so many times. A couple of years ago down in Gainesville, you had that game 1-2. I still think Florida. I still think it was a penalty on that last play. The play clock hit 0, I thought, before the ball was snapped and Florida scored that winning touchdown. I thought y'all should have won that year too. But what a brutal loss. What were your thoughts watching the end of that game?
I'm so glad you brought up that penalty that was not called at Florida because I totally forgot about that. But you're right, that was an obvious penalty that was not called. That was 4th down and goal. They had to score that play to win the game as in overtime. You know, so if they don't get that playoff, they got to move back 5 yards, and they got to do it all over again. That was brutal, but it wasn't nearly as brutal, Lou, as this game this year.
Yeah.
This game this year, Lou, you brought up that play where nobody was on that receiver. That happened twice, Lou.
I know.
Twice.
Unbelievable.
Here's the thing about the whole thing. The coaching got a lot of heat for that. They did deserve some heat for that. But I'm gonna mention something, and I hate doing this. I hate blaming stuff on the refs. But that holding penalty on Benny Snell was brutal. I don't know if you remember this or not, Lou, but Kentucky actually had the ball at the end of that game to score, and a field goal would have won the game. Kentucky moves the ball up. They make some great plays. Then Benny Snell busts off for about a 20 to 25-yard run. Kentucky would have kicked a field goal to win the game. Our field kicker has been money. He's been clutch. He's like Hot Rod. And I'm watching the game. Benny Snell busts off that huge run, gets tackled at about the 20, 15-yard line. I'm thinking, oh my God, we're finally going to beat him. Flag on the play. Holding on Kentucky. And you said this numerous times, Lou. You can call holding on every single play.
Yeah.
And they call it on the last play of the game to decide the game, which didn't even look like a holding call. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I really think in situations like that, it has to be like you almost have to tackle a man in order for holding to be called. And I do remember that. I do remember that play now. Just absolutely brutal.
I want to tell you this, Lou. Kentucky is the one team in the SEC that doesn't really have a rival in the SEC, if you think about it. I mean, as an outsider, who would you think Kentucky's rival is in the SEC if you had to name one team off the top of your head?
It seems like the Tennessee game is always pretty big.
Tennessee was kind of a rivalry back when we were little, Lou. But Tennessee has beaten Kentucky so many different times, so many different ways, that it's kind of like I can promise you this. Tennessee does not consider Kentucky a rival in football. Tennessee considers Georgia, Florida, Alabama rivals. You know, because they're a threat to them. Kentucky's not a threat to Tennessee in football. So.
Well, they were last year. I just want to throw that in there real quick. They were a threat to Tennessee last year, and Kentucky did beat Tennessee last year. Obviously, Tennessee 0-8.
Yeah, Tennessee was the worst team in the SEC by far last year.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about.
In general, though, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the general. So as a Kentucky fan, and I probably speak for most Kentucky fans when I say this, if there's one team that Kentucky fans that pick that they hate the most, it's Florida, and it's not even close. We cannot stand Florida. They're cocky. They're arrogant. I just cannot stand them, Lou. And to lose that game on a play like that to that team, I never got over it, Lou. I'm still not over it.
Yeah. That's I mean, looking at the schedule, it's hard to pencil the Florida game in as a Kentucky win in any year for Kentucky. So I'm gonna assume that's a loss and put you at maybe 1-1. You got Murray State after that. You should win that one 2-1. Then you have Mississippi State. They're a little bit of a question mark to me this year. Whole new coaching staff. Plus, you don't know what you're going to get out of Nick Fitzgerald. Brutal leg injury in the Egg Bowl to end last year for Mississippi State. So I'm on sort of a wait and see type deal with Mississippi State to see how those coaches do and to see what kind of shape Nick Fitzgerald's in and how much is he going to, a lot of what he does is running around and we'll see if that leg has any lasting effect on him for this coming year. So we'll put that in a toss-up category for now. Then you get South Carolina. Where's that game at? Do y'all play them there?
Kentucky home game.
Okay, I would give y'all a shot to win that game. I do think South Carolina's a better team than Kentucky, but we've all been watching football long enough to know that the better team doesn't always win the game. And in the SEC, home field advantage is a real thing, regardless of what people want to say about the size of certain stadiums or whatever. Home field advantage is a thing in the SEC, so I could see Kentucky having a shot in this game. What do you think? You seem to have you've had their number.
Beat them 4 straight years.
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me? But, at the end of the day, I mean, because of that, you have to at least put that game as a toss-up, despite South Carolina being clearly the better team. I got South Carolina 2 in the East this year, Lou.
Me too.
But because, I thought South Carolina was going to kill Kentucky last year. Kentucky goes in there and just absolutely hammers them. Beat them to the ground. I mean, it's got to be a toss-up, Lou.
Yeah, you mentioned the 4-game streak you guys have on South Carolina. Last year was really the only year I was totally shocked. I really thought South Carolina was going to win that game. I didn't even think that one was going to be close. It was in South Carolina, and speaking about home field advantages, they have one of the best home field advantages, in my opinion, in the SEC. Their crowd is nuts there. So that one, I think you guys have a legit chance there. Then you get Texas A&M. Same thing, new coaching staff, Jimbo Fisher. Is he a good coach, or is he a one-hit wonder, a product of Jameis Winston? Does he have the type of players at Texas A&M he needs to run his style of system that he wants to run? I don't know. You get Texas A&M in the first half of the season, which is traditionally when they're winning games. If you look back over recent history, the past 4, 5, 6 years since they got in the SEC, they're usually on fire the first half of the season, and then they crash and burn the second half of the season, and you get them. This is the 6th game of the year. This is another tough one to kind of pick right now.
Lou, I got that as a loss. I'm going to tell you why. I don't see Kentucky winning that game on the road.
Yeah, it's tough to play there for sure.
In my mind, that's a loss. I don't know about you, but I don't think any way Kentucky wins that football game.
Yeah. Then you got Vanderbilt. This is a lot of times this ends up being like almost like the winner makes a bowl game. It seems like a lot of times it seems like the winner of this game a lot of years finishes with 6 or 7 wins, and the loser finishes with 4, 5, or 6 wins or something. It just seems to work that way. So this is almost like a play-in game for a bowl a lot of years. What do you think about this game coming up this year? They get Shermer back, a real deal at quarterback.
Yeah, but they had Shermer last year,
Yeah.
Lou, and Kentucky absolutely hammered them at Vandy. I don't see any way Kentucky loses this game, Lou. I'm going to be honest with you.
All right, we'll give you a win on that one. Then you go to Missouri, another sort of question mark team. Which Missouri is going to show up this year? Are we going to see the Missouri that showed up the first half of last season, or the Missouri that showed up the last half of last season, which looked really, really good at times? Drew Lock, elite quarterback, probably the best pure throwing quarterback in the SEC right now. What do you think about that one at Mizzou?
At Mizzou, I don't see any way Kentucky wins that game, Lou. I got Mizzou third in the East. It's good. Kentucky will score points, but they won't put enough points to win that game. I don't see any way they win that game at Mizzou.
Yeah, Missouri has a chance to break some scoring records this year in the SEC, in my opinion, if Drew Lock can heat up. Then you get Georgia. You do get them at home. Of course, last time we played there 2 years ago, one of the all-time classics between Georgia and Kentucky. Georgia hit a last-second field goal to win the game. Yeah, Hot Rod was 4 for 4 field goals in that game, including a last-second game winner. Y'all host us this year. What are your thoughts on that one?
I got Georgia 45, Kentucky 10.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Not going to be close.
Yeah. Obviously, Georgia will be favored in that game if things go the way most people think they'll go the first half of the season. Georgia will be a pretty heavy favorite in that game. I'm not our defense, I don't know. We held over half of our opponents last year to 20 points or less last year. It wouldn't surprise me to see our defense take a little bit of a step back this year. I think we're top 5 in most categories last year. We're not going to fall off the map. I think we'll still be in the top 15, but I don't think we're going to be as elite as we were last year. Talent's not the reason. It's leadership, something we talked about at the beginning of the show. So I'll give you more than 10 points in that game, but I do think Georgia wins.
Well, Lou, you got to understand real quick, Georgia is a lot like, Bama. Just because they're replacing players doesn't mean too much. I mean, yeah, your defense isn't going to be as good as last year. However, I don't think there will be very many defenses as good as last year's Georgia defense. Roquan Smith is a once-in-a-generation type player. You don't replace him.
No way.
You're still not replacing these guys with scrubs.
I agree. I think it's experience and leadership is what we'll be lacking on defense next year. Not talent. Talent-wise, we'll be good. I think you're right. Then you travel to Knoxville at Tennessee. I mean, everybody knows the mess that's been Tennessee football over the last few years, especially last year where things really nosedived. 0-8, they just seem to get blown out week after week after week. You do have to play them in Knoxville this year. I give you guys a shot in this game. What do you think about it?
Well, Lou, I think this is going to be one of those games where whoever makes the last play wins, similar to the Alabama-Georgia championship game. And here's the thing about Tennessee, that their defense has been historically bad. Historically bad. Their offense, not much better. I mean, can they put a quarterback in there that can make plays? Kentucky's going to have the best-rated JUCO quarterback, scrambling quarterback, come in, former four-star recruit, left Oregon. He's played junior college last year, lit it up. He's coming here to Kentucky. He'll probably start right away. He'll be a much improved quarterback than Steven Johnson. As much as I love Steven Johnson's heart, he's a two-star recruit, just didn't have the ability that someone like this kid, I think his name's Touchdown Terry Wilson, is coming in. So, he's going to put up points for Kentucky next year. Can Tennessee put up enough points, especially on that Tennessee defense? They're going to put up points. Benny Snell will be running all over them. I don't see Tennessee scoring enough points to win this game, Lou.
Yeah, this game is pretty late in the season, so we'll know what we're dealing with Tennessee by this point in the season. But right now, I have a hard time finding 6 wins on Tennessee's schedule. I think it's going to be a long year. You finish up the season, Middle Tennessee State and Louisville. I think you win both of those games. Louisville loses Lamar Jackson. They should take a huge step back. And you've had some success against Louisville, even with Lamar Jackson there. So I would have to give you 2 wins at the end of this season. So just kind of glancing over it right now, I see 7-5, maybe if things go good, 8-4.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have it 7-5, Lou.
Yeah, if you look back over the last 4 years, you have 5 wins, 5 wins, 7 wins, 7 wins. So you did make a bowl game the last 2 years, but you lost the bowl game. So if you can go 7-5 or 8-4, get in a bowl game and win the bowl game, I think people can look at this year and say, well, we see some improvement.
Yeah, that's all you're really looking for as a Kentucky fan, Lou, is just improvement from the season before. And with the upgraded quarterback and you got eight seniors on the defense this year. Three or four of them will play in the pros. I think they can win 8 games this year, Lou. I don't think that's crazy to say that.
Yeah, I don't either. It'll be fun to watch. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about the former Butch Jones, and I'm gonna throw Jeromy Pruitt in here too. Situation that's going on in Knoxville. Now, last night when I was streaming, somebody pointed out to me, hey, you need to read this article. They put a giant picture of Butch Jones up on the back of the Jumbotron in Tennessee's stadium. The Jumbotron extends over top of the stadium, so you can see the back of the Jumbotron from outside the stadium. And on the back of that Jumbotron is a giant picture of Butch Jones that they put up while Butch Jones was there. Well, he was fired 3 months ago. Jeromy Pruitt's been hired, new athletic director in here. So it's been 3 months. This picture is still up on the Jumbotron, and I guess finally some fans have started complaining, calling the athletic department, calling the university and complaining, and I guess Butch Jones has come out, and his excuse is, we've been trying to get it taken down, we're having trouble securing a crane. Your thoughts on that situation, sir?
I'm really starting to think that the Tennessee athletic administration is trolling the Tennessee fans. You look back, Lou, look at that coaching search. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And on top of all of that, Lou, I really think they hired the wrong coach. If they would have gone out and they would have gotten Jeff Brom, he's a head coach at Purdue, that would have been a home run. He's a guy that not a lot of people know about. Big time offensive mind. You throw in a good D coordinator to go with him, and he would have been elite at Tennessee. I promise you. Wait till you see Purdue next year. They will be improved greatly. They improved greatly last season. They were horrible when Brom wasn't there. They got really competitive as soon as Brom came in his first year. Played Louisville to the wire in the season opener with Lamar Jackson up there. Lou, I really think that the Tennessee fans deserve better. And as much as you hate Tennessee, I don't really like them either, Lou. Excuse me. But I will say this. My brother-in-law, my sister's husband, is from Knoxville. Huge Tennessee fan. I got to hang out with him over Christmas. He was up here for a couple days. Real cool dude, real nice guy. People like that, they deserve better, Lou. They really do. It has absolutely been a catastrophe there the past, I don't even know how many years. When we were younger, Lou, Tennessee was elite. You have Peyton Manning, T. Martin. I mean, you can go on. These days, I couldn't name you 2 players on Tennessee's football team, Lou.
I hear you. I mean, to me, obviously, there's no excuse for this. This thing, if this thing wasn't taken down immediately when Butch Jones was fired, it definitely should have been taken down immediately once a replacement was named, regardless of the fact that they screwed that search up for the replacement, regardless of the fact that 9 different coaches told them thanks, but no thanks, we're not interested, regardless of the fact that they ended up with someone that no one else even interviewed or wanted, Jeromy Pruitt. That picture of Lyle should have been taken down the minute somebody else was hired. And then to come out, Philip Fulmer has been the anointed savior of the Tennessee football program, right? Yeah, people are pretending to be excited about Jeromy Pruitt. They're really not. The same things they're saying about Jeromy Pruitt, the same level of excitement that they have, they would have that no matter who the new coach was. It's nothing special about Jeromy Pruitt. They're just happy to be rid of Lyle. And they're so infatuated with this idea of Philip Fulmer, which I don't know why. These are the same fans that ran him out on a rail 10, 11 years ago, right? They're so happy to have this guy back. And the best he can come up with as a reason as to why this picture, this giant fathead poster of Lyle is still up on the back of the Jumbotron atop of Neyland Stadium, the best he can come up with is we've had trouble securing a crane. Is Knoxville like a hick town? I mean, isn't Knoxville a city?
Knoxville is a city, Lou, and it's not really a hick town.
Are there buildings in Knoxville taller than 4 stories tall?
Yes.
So there are cranes somewhere.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, that's what I figured. I just, I wasn't sure if we were dealing with Mayberry here and they were trying to break Otis out of the drunk tank to get him to operate the crane. I don't know what's going on here. It's absolutely ridiculous that you're telling me we're having trouble securing a crane to get this picture taken down. Absolutely ridiculous. Let me ask you about Jeromy Pruitt real quick, and let's try to keep your answer under a minute. 2 things on Jeromy Pruitt. Will he be a good head coach? Yes or no, and why? And what do you think about his? He's got a bit of a temper problem. It's well documented. He got drunk and tried to fight Mark Richt in Mark Richt's front yard in 2015 at UGA. He's never been around a losing program, though. He won at Alabama, then he won at Florida State, then he won at Georgia. Now he's winning at Alabama again. So are you a believer in Jeromy Pruitt as a head coach? Yes or no? And we all know Tennessee's going to struggle this year, probably looking at another maybe 6-win season if they're lucky. How do you think Pruitt handles the adversity of losing?
Do I think Jeromy Pruitt is a good coach? Good head coach? No. Good defensive coach? Yes. And as far as the adversity goes, Lou, I really think it's going to be too much for Pruitt. We're talking Tennessee football. It's very similar to Kentucky basketball. There's just too much heat. There's too much attention paid to it. There's just too many ignorant fans. But at the end of the day, Lou, Jeromy Pruitt was not the right hire for Tennessee. Jeromy Pruitt would be the right hire for someone like a Florida, a Georgia, and Alabama, an elite team with the talents there where he can just go in there and coach. He's going to have to, do all different types of things to get Tennessee back, and he's just not the right guy, Lou.
I tend to agree with most of what you said. Now, last topic, the Saban house. What do I and I teased that at the beginning of the show. What do I mean by that? What is the deal? Okay, first of all, I think Nick Saban is the greatest college football coach in history. That's just my opinion. I know he has a lot of haters. I know not everybody agrees with that, and that's fine. That's not the point of this conversation. I'm just saying what I'm about to say is not just because I'm totally anti-Saban or anything. I think Saban's the greatest coach in history, okay? What's the deal with bringing in these castaways that have not just failed at previous places, but failed publicly and embarrassingly? Lane Kiffin, made a complete fool of himself the little bit of time he was at Tennessee, goes to Southern Cal, completely burns their program down, gets fired on the tarmac at an away game. I mean, they don't even let the guy fly back to L.A. I mean, they fired the guy on the tarmac after an away game. Sarkisian gets kicked out of different teams for drinking on the job, and I guess he was an alcoholic and he got treatment and all that, which is great. That's fine. It happens. Saban brings him in. Now rumors that Saban has or wants to interview Butch Jones for an offensive analyst position, and that's the position that he's given these other guys. That's what Lane Kiffin was. He then became offensive coordinator. That's what Sarkisian was, and then became offensive coordinator. He wants to bring Butch Jones in now as an offensive analyst, a guy who was the laughingstock of college football for his last 2 years in Knoxville. His press conferences were must-see TV. They were stand-up. It was like Def Comedy Jam. It was like a comedy night at the Apollo. The guy would come out, people were laughing, the trash cans on the sideline, the life champions, NASCAR champions, the 5-star hearts. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And now Saban wants to bring this guy in. What do you think it is about Nick Saban where he almost feels like all three of these people have a lot in common, Kiffin, Sarkisian, and now Butch, and that is no one wanted them. They could not get a job. Butch Jones was a hair away from accepting a high school job because just no one wanted him. Kiffin was untouchable. No one would hire him. Sarkisian, no one wanted him. Saban brings these guys in almost like a halfway house, and that's what I'm talking about when I say the Saban house here. It's almost like a Saban halfway house for disgraced coaches. Now, Sarkisian has moved on. He's the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. Lane Kiffin has moved on. He's a head coach for FAU, probably another year or two there before he gets another shot at a legitimate school. So my question is, why is he doing this, and can Butch Jones be another Saban house success story? Is it possible Butch Jones goes to Alabama, spends a couple of years studying game tape or whatever it is these offensive analysts do at Bama, and in a couple of years we find Butch Jones head coaching again? Is that possible?
Well, the thing about that, Lou, is you really answered your question there at the end of your question. Saban is so cocky and arrogant. He's saying, look, you see this guy that nobody wants? You see this guy that everybody pisses on? I'm going to make him a superstar. You see this guy? I'm going to make him big time. I really think that's what Saban is doing here, Lou. He's saying, I'm such a good head coach that I can make this scumbag, I can make this nobody into gold.
It may be. I mean, you're on to something with the arrogant thing. And that's a theme I touched on with Saban during the season last year with the Jalen Hurts situation. I couldn't understand for the life of me why Nick Saban kept playing Jalen Hurts. And the only legitimate answer I could get, even from diehard Alabama fans, was, well, he's 20-1. Now he's 21-1. Now he's 22-1. Now he's 23-1. Well, then he gets benched at halfway through the national title game. They put a real quarterback in, and now these same people are saying Hurts was trash. Hurts was trash. I think there's something to the hard-headed. Saban, he had some decent quarterbacks early on, McCarron, McElroy, but he never had a superstar quarterback. And I just think, like Saban's so arrogant and hard-headed, he thinks he can he can win with, he wants to have the good defense. He wants to be able to run the ball. He really could care less about quarterback. And it's almost like just to prove that, I'm going to take this tight end named Jalen Hurts. I'm going to start him at quarterback, and I'm going to win a national title with him just to prove that I can put anybody I want at quarterback because quarterbacks don't matter. That's what it seemed like when I was watching Jalen Hurts. That's what it seemed like when I was watching Urban Meyer and that guy that's been their quarterback since 1992. I'm drawing a blank on his name now.
Barrett.
Yeah, JT Barrett. Yeah. So you may be onto something with the arrogance issue there, but okay. So all right? So let's do this. Let's assume Saban hires Butch Jones. If that happens, if Saban hires Butch Jones as an analyst, is Butch Jones a head coach in 2021?
Lou, unless Saban is hiring him as a cheerleader, I just really don't see it happening. I mean, Butch Jones, I just can't ever really see him being a good head coach anywhere.
I can't either.
I mean, you look, Tennessee was loaded with talent a couple years ago, and he had a mediocre season.
Yeah.
I mean, You know, I mean, it takes a miracle to beat Georgia on Kirby Smart's first year on a Hail Mary pass. I mean, are you kidding me?
Right.
Josh Dobbs would have been an elite quarterback in a place like Alabama those years. You know, and I mean, Dobbs only won, like 7, 8 games that year? I mean, you got to be kidding me. At some point, you got to say, I mean, this guy cannot coach.
Yeah, beat Florida and Georgia in the same year, had the East locked up, and then lost to South Carolina and then Vanderbilt at the end of the season to basically give the East back to Florida. To me, the only thing that would excite me a little bit about the idea of Butch Jones coaching again would be the press conferences. I'm going to miss those Butch Jones press conferences.
Oh, they were great.
They were comedy gold. Anyway, I'm going to let you go and take some phone calls here for the last 15 minutes or so. But, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on today, talking Kentucky with us. You know, I like to have people on from all these different teams that know way more than I do about their respective teams, and I feel like we all learned a lot about Kentucky today. So I really want to thank you for coming on, and hopefully we can do this again over the summer once it gets a little bit closer to the start of the season.
Absolutely, Lou. I look forward to it.
All right, thanks, buddy. Okay, so that was Jeff M. from Kentucky there talking with us about Kentucky, and now, of course, the moment you've all been waiting for. Yeah, we're going to open up the phone lines now. So if you'd like to be on the show, you can give me a call, 706-510-6817. The number is scrolling across the screen now, but one more time, it's 706-510-6817. When you call in, make sure you speak clearly, speak a little bit louder than you would normally, but there's no need to yell unless that's just the reason for your call, to call and yell at Uncle Lou, which is perfectly fine and acceptable. So the phone lines are open. Go ahead and call in. Let me know, what do you think about Kentucky's record? It seemed like me and Jeff were sort of on the same page, looking at 7, maybe 8 wins. What do you think about the whole Butch Jones still having his picture on the stadium deal? I don't think there's any excuse for still having that picture up. I remember Steve Spurrier had a giant fat head outside the stadium, and I don't remember how long it took him to get that thing down, but it took him too long to get that thing down too. So maybe this is some sort of trend we're seeing with these teams that just can't get them off the pictures off the stadium. Anyway, let's see who wants to argue. Yeah, good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou.
I told you I'd be back.
I've been looking forward to it.
I'm sure you have. Now, I want to hear you. Hang on one second. All right. God damn it. There are multiple people listening to this call, just so you know. Now, I want to talk about...
Well, the show's being broadcast live on YouTube, so everyone is perfectly aware that there are multiple people listening to this call, but thank you for letting us know that.
All right, you're welcome, Luke. Now, I want to talk about your ego today. Why do you have such a big-ass ego?
Well, why do you think?
I don't know. I wonder if it stems from, like, a child perspective or maybe just Georgia sucking at football for so long that you have to like football. I mean, you have to have such a huge ego.
When was the last time Georgia sucked at football?
2016, 16 season.
8 wins is sucking.
That's pretty bad.
Okay.
Well, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about your ego. I mean,
right.
you have such a giant ego. And the other day when I roasted you at the end of your show, you were playing this loud, why are you...
Stop trolling me!
You're my ultimate roast. So, I mean, you can't do that, Lou. You can't play noise. Everybody needs to know hear my roast, okay?
All right, well, the floor is all yours, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lou.
Roast away. Roast away.
All right. Now, first of all, I want to say 3 things.
Stop trolling me! Stop trolling me!
Why do you... I'm trying to... Just those first 2 things.
Hey, in the future when you call in, try to gather your thoughts ahead of time. Maybe write them down or something. This is dragging on, dude. Get it together here, man. Get it together. We're on a limited time schedule here.
I'm so sorry, Lou. I know it's your show.
I'm a very busy and important person, okay? Let's go.
I'm sure you are. Auburn's going 15-0 next year. Agree or disagree?
Disagree. They haven't had back-to-back 10-win seasons since 1988. They won 10 games last year. Therefore, they're not winning more than 9 this year. It's just not happening. Gus Malzahn's one of the worst coaches in the SEC. He's in over his head.
Gus Malzahn's beat Nick Saban twice.
Out of how many tries?
He's beat.
What's Gus Malzahn's record against Nick Saban?
2-7. No. 2-7, yeah.
Right. And so we're going to go back to where we were last week, where you're bragging about being 2-7 against somebody. Okay. That tells me how far Auburn football has fallen. That you're bragging about being 2-7 against Alabama. That's amazing.
Well, who else has beat Alabama? Just out of curiosity.
What does that have to do with Gus Malzahn? That doesn't have anything to do with Gus Malzahn.
Gus Malzahn's not a bad coach. Yeah, I mean, we pulled in top 10 recruiting classes for like the last.
Then you would think he could. If he's have all these top 10 recruiting classes, why can't he win a bowl game, sir?
I don't know, Lou.
We know you don't know. That's the entire point, sir. That's the entire point. We know that you don't know, but we do know. It's because he's not a good coach, sir. He's been at Auburn for how many years? He's got 1 bowl win. 1.
He's a good coach. He's a very good coach. Good coach. He's a good coach. Now, Lou, listen to this real quick, and I'm about to go. I hope everybody else trolls you and raises your stress level to the point where you're completely tapped out and your rage quits.
Stop trolling me!
Goodbye, Lou. I hope you have a wonderful day. Troll all day.
Stop trolling! Thank you, and I really appreciate the call. That's why I do this show. I love those kind of calls. Please, all right, phone lines are back open, 706-510-6817. Call Uncle Lou, tell me how stupid I am, or tell me how big my ego is. I'm not sure where that guy gets that from. I don't have a big ego. That's like when people tell me I'm a sore loser. I'm not a sore loser, okay? I'm just not good at losing because I don't have very much experience at it. It's just that simple, okay? Good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou.
Uncle Lou, I told you not to play that Stop Trolling Me noise. I thought we agreed not to do that anymore.
That must have been somebody else playing it.
No, Uncle Lou, I'm not an idiot. I mean, I might seem like it, but I'm no more an idiot than you are. So, I mean, however stupid you are, that I am. Now, don't play that Stop Trolling Me noise. It's retarded. You're retarded. And go Auburn War Eagle. 15-0. Haha, troll.
War Tiger Plainsman. Wee. Well, that's pretty serious. Dude had to call right back, didn't he? Anyway, what am I doing here? All right. Let's see who this is now. Good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou.
Oh, really? Is this the Uncle Lou show?
It sure is. You're live on the air.
All right. Well, first of all, my name is Parker. I'm a huge Texas Longhorns fan, and I just want to say I really appreciate your show. You're an inspiration. Really hilarious guy, and I really enjoy watching your show, first of all.
I appreciate those kind words, but tell us, I don't know why you called, but before you get into why you called, I was high on Texas last year, and I don't know how long you've been listening to me, but I was high on Texas last year, and I was a little bit wrong. I said they could win 10 games last year. You guys came up a little bit short, but I'm a huge fan of Tom Herman. If we weren't going to get Kirby Smart, Tom Herman was number 2 on Uncle Lou's list of wants for UGA a couple of years ago. I'm a big believer in him. What can we expect from Texas this year? Can you guys compete in the Big 12 this year?
Well, first of all, I watched, it was your predictions for, week 1. You kind of a little bit fell off the hype train for Texas after that week 1 loss to Maryland, which I was at, by the way. Really embarrassing performance. Really, really embarrassing performance. Shane did not look great. Anyone or the entire team did not look great, but regardless, it was their first game under Herman, so there would be a little bit of adversity, but
right.
The defense started to get going after that. The offense sort of found the rhythm, but they were still pretty trash. Couldn't run the ball with jack shit.
Yeah.
Excuse my language. And almost beat UNC at their home turf. But after that, close losses in overtime, wins against Kansas State in overtime, almost beat OU, and ended up getting a win over Mizzou in the Texas Bowl.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get a winning season under our belt. But going back to your question earlier today, I'm pretty sure with this new line coach that we technically stole from Auburn, no offense to Auburn fans out there, we hired Herb Hand from Auburn to basically help with our O-line. He should be able to bring back the rushing game for Texas. Auburn was ranked in the top 30 last year. Regardless, he will be calling some plays to help out Tim Beck. But I think Texas should be able to get over, maybe should be able to get more than 7 wins, maybe even perhaps 9 or perhaps 10, maybe into New Year's 6 or one of them top bowls there. But what do you think before I sort of elaborate?
I think, what's his name? The coach before Herman, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Charlie Strong. He had a couple of really good recruiting classes his last year there. So the cupboard's not bare at Texas, and that's one of the reasons I kind of thought Texas was going to do so good last year. I think Herman's a much better coach than Charlie Strong, and I thought he'd be able to take what was already there and do a little bit more with it than he did. But like you mentioned, there's an adjustment period with bringing a new coach in, but I expect Texas to take a huge leap this year. Oklahoma is losing Baker Mayfield. Now, they get a ton of talent back. We had an Oklahoma guy on a couple of days ago, and they've got a ridiculous amount of their starters back next year, including some of their top playmakers on offense. But I think Texas's goal this year should be, if not to win the Big 12, to at least be really, really close there in November.
Yeah, I hope so as well. It would be nice to get back at least competing for the conference championships instead of for the low bowl championships. But I mean, hey, I guess us Texas fans can kind of take what we can get.
Yeah.
Sam Ehlinger had not that bad of a year if you watched him last year. I mean, of course, he made some bonehead mistakes that could have caused Texas to have more than 7 wins, but he was a freshman, so I'll kind of give him a pass. And plus, the O-line didn't do a good job of handling the pressure. And plus, Texas on their best class, so lots of really great players.
There's just no reason.
So really looking for that.
There's just no reason or excuse in my mind for there to be 2 and 3 teams in Texas that are better than Texas. TCU should not be better than Texas. Baylor, they're not now, but a couple of years ago, Baylor, better than Texas. Texas A&M's been better than Texas a few times over the last few. Texas should be head and shoulders above the other teams in Texas. And outside of Oklahoma, there's nobody else in the Big 12 that should be coming close to even competing with what Texas can do. I'm a believer in Herman. I think he can get them back there, but I think you guys have got to win some games this year. I think you guys have got to get to 9-3, 10-2 at least. For it to be a successful season, year 2 under Herman. I think you can do it.
Yeah, I believe we can do it too. We got to go to the Redskins field next year. I think it's FedEx Field to get the rematch against Maryland. I'm pretty confident that Texas should be able to get revenge from that game. We got Tulsa. I'm not sure how many wins. I know they were bad last year, didn't go to a bowl. I'm pretty sure we should be able to blow them out or lucky shut them out. And then USC comes to home. They lose Sam Darnold. Regardless, I don't think he's going to get very high in the draft. It wasn't really that great. I mean, he showed some positive signs, but I don't think he's really going to get that high in the draft.
Way too many interceptions.
I still have that as a loss. I'm sorry, what?
Way too many interceptions for Darnold.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, way too many.
And then, I believe after that, we get, I believe TCU. I really hope Texas can finally get over that hump, beat TCU. It's been really embarrassing the way Texas has performed against them the last few years.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm not sure what after that. What was after that? confident we should be able to steal the Golden Hat back from Oklahoma. Oklahoma State loses Mason Rudolph. Should be able to get a win there. Iowa State will be a tough game for sure. Matt Campbell has really put Iowa State on one of those watchful teams in the conference and really in the country. But I still have that as a win. Texas is 2-0 against Matt Campbell and his Cyclones. The Purple Wizard, Bill Snyder and his K-State Wildcats, they should be able to get a win. If not, I don't know what's to happen. And then always unpredictable West Virginia, they get back Will Greer. Literally broke his middle finger during the game last year after a touchdown, and West Virginia just fell apart after that.
Yeah.
But if he stays throughout the game, that should be I hate to say this, but I think that'll be a loss. West Virginia is a little bit too tough, but if we're lucky, we should be able to get a win against them. And then I apologize for not knowing the entire schedule, but
No, that's
I
okay.
believe Texas should be able to get at least 9 or 10 wins this year, if at best, and we don't have injuries.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. And I'll do all my official prediction videos again in June, July, and August like I did last summer and get a little bit more in-depth and detailed on Texas. But, I mean, I'm not a Texas fan, but as a college football fan, college football is just better when Texas is putting a good product on the field. I mean, there's a few teams you can say that about even if you hate those teams, right? I mean, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Southern Cal, Alabama, whatever. You throw different teams in there, but it's just certain teams. It just feels like college football in general is more exciting when those core group of teams are putting good products on the field. And it's been a while for Texas. I think they're close to turning the corner. I'm a huge believer in Tom Herman. So good luck to your Longhorns this year. You guys don't have Georgia on the schedule, so as far as I'm concerned, I hope you go 12-0. And I really appreciate the call, and thank you for the kind words too. And I really appreciate the call. I'll take one more call here. It's right at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock, so I need to wrap it up here. But if somebody wants to call here in the next minute or two, 706-510-6817, then I'll take one more call. I want to thank Jeff M. from Kentucky again for being our guest today. If you joined us late, after this show posts to YouTube, which takes about an hour after the show ends, make sure you go back, click on the video, and listen to our interview with Jeff from Kentucky. He knew his stuff and gave us some good insight on Kentucky basketball and football. Good morning. You're on with Uncle Lou.
Hey, Uncle Lou.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
Doing good.
All right, now, Florida this year, the whole new head coach thing, how do you think over this year?
How do I think Florida's going to do this year?
Yes, sir.
I think Florida will be better than last year. Florida and Florida State both are too talented to be winning, 4, 5, 6, even 7 games a year. Last year, as much as I hate Florida, last year was an anomaly. Okay, they're not going to have very many years where they're winning 4, 5, 6, and 7 games. It's just not going to happen. I don't think Dan Mullen is an elite coach, but he doesn't have to be to win 8, 9 games at Florida. I see no way possible Florida doesn't have a drastic turnaround from last year. I don't think they can win the East. I don't think Dan Mullen is as good a coach as Kirby Smart, and I don't think Florida is as talented roster-wise as Georgia is right now. Now, could that change in a year or two? It's possible. Dan Mullen's teams are always going to depend on the success of his quarterback. And there's not a quarterback on Florida's roster. There's just not. Their quarterback situation is atrocious. I know they signed a freshman, Emory Jones. Is Dan Mullen going to play him, start him? I don't know. A lot of times when you're a head coach and you're in your first year, that's considered almost like a throwaway year, a mulligan-type year. So if he wants to roll the dice and go with the freshman, which is what I would do if I was Dan Mullen, there's no way I would put any existing Florida quarterback back out on the field. They're that bad. I would rather play the freshman and go 7-5 and let him take his lumps this year and then be ready to go next year with a year of experience. That's what I would do personally. Of course, it's possible Emory Jones comes in and lights it up and they win 9 or 10 games. No way to know until we see him play. I don't think they're winning the East this year, but I think they'll be drastically better than last year.
Well, the thing I'm most excited about Florida this year is the running back position. You have Jordan Scarlett coming back from the suspension, which I'm happy about. Then you also have Malik Davis coming off the injury, which I think he's going to be amazing next year. Like, over Charlotte. Like, start over him. And the first 5 games of the season, he was phenomenal for the Gators.
Yeah.
Hell, he got up when he get to Kentucky.
Right. Well, what do you think about the quarterback? What would you like to see happen with the quarterback situation? What would, if it was up to you, who would you want to see play quarterback this year?
Who would I want to see? Felipe Franks, honestly, because he already has snaps went in, and I think with the development or the way that Damon helps quarterbacks, I think over time Felipe Franks will be pretty good because physically he's already there at 6'7" with the arm talent too. He can throw the ball. He just needs to make better decisions. If he makes better decisions, he can be a good quarterback in the SEC.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Defensive wise too, I think you guys are probably going to take a step back from where you've been over the last 3 or 4 years. You took a little step back last year on defense. I think you take another step back this year, but I think it is possible. I mean, let's just be honest. Your offense has been absolutely awful for the last couple of years. I mean, you've been averaging 21, 22 points a game over the last few years. I can't believe in my lifetime I'm seeing, after what I saw under Steve Spurrier, I never thought I'd live to see the day where Florida was struggling to score 3 touchdowns a game. Your offense is going to get better. So that's the good news. No matter what, your offense is going to be better under Mullen than it was under McElwain. We'll see how good the defense can be and if they can keep you in some games or not. I mean, you've got some talent on the team, and there's no excuse like for losing to Missouri, like you did last year. We'll see. I think it's possible that the Florida-South Carolina game could determine 2nd and 3rd place in the East, but I do think Georgia right now is a considerable favorite to win the East.
Well, obviously Georgia, I mean, they just got like 7 5-stars. In the next recruiting class, they probably have 3, don't they?
Yeah, we people who really know recruiting, which I'm not one of them, have been telling me for 2 years that Georgia's 2019 class will be one of the best recruiting classes in history. I find that hard to believe now after I just saw what happened for 2018, but some Georgia fans who follow recruiting are still telling me that the 2019 class is going to be better than the 2018. I'll have to see that to believe it. I couldn't believe what I saw for the 2018 class, so we'll see what happens in 2019 there. But, I mean, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, I mean, look, you're way closer than Tennessee is as far as getting back to the top of the East, so that's good news. I think you're probably you're probably a more talented team right now than South Carolina. But, Muschamps been there a couple of years. Those guys are buying in. Jake Bentley's going to be a 3rd-year starter, and he's pretty good. And, having a good, stable quarterback situation can take you a long way. And that's really what's been hurting Florida for a long time now is quarterback play. If you guys can get that figured out, then who knows? Maybe you can surprise some people this year. But right now, I'd put you at 2nd or 3rd in the East.
I mean, yeah, 2nd and 3rd, that's pretty good because Georgia's obviously going to go like 10-2 at least next season. But the new run game for Georgia is going to be hard because, I mean, there's not really a number 1 starter so far because Swift is probably the best choice though. But quarterback, Fromm's going to have to develop quickly or Fields going to take over.
Yeah, Fromm will get to start for sure. I think Fields will play some. I think it'll be hard for Fields to overtake Fromm this year, but I think Fields will play a lot, and if he plays well when he plays this year, then I think you could have a legitimate quarterback controversy heading into the 2019 season. We'll see. As far as the running back situation, you're right. No way you're replacing Chubb and Michelle. I mean, we had 2,000-yard running backs last year. That hardly ever happens anywhere in college football unless you're an option team. I don't think it's ever happened at Georgia before, 2,000-yard rushers. So we have Swift this year. I don't think he's as talented as Chubb and Michelle were as seniors, although I think he's got the ability to get there at some point. I think he'll be the primary running back this year. So I think it's possible he puts up numbers similar to what Chubb or Michelle put up last year, but I think he'll have a lot more carries. Chubb and Michelle were only getting 10 or 12 carries a game last year and still got 1,000 yards. I think Swift could get 14, 15, 16 carries a game. We don't really have a 1A and 1B like we had last year with Chubb and Michelle. I think Swift is a solid number one running back, and then you've got 2 or 3 guys stacked up behind him with Harrion, Holyfield, and 2 freshmen, James Cook and Zamir White. So we'll see. I think our running game will take a step back. I think the passing game will be a little bit better. Fromm's got a year of experience under his belt. So we'll see. I'll give you the last word, though, and then I'm going to have to let you go.
All right. Thank you. I think the Ridley brother, Riley Ridley, isn't it?
Yep.
I think he'll start to shine in that new offense next season with, I think he actually has more potential than his brother Calvin.
He definitely showed out in the national title game. Georgia fans have been waiting to see that from him for a long time. He was sort of invisible since he's been at UJ, really a couple of plays here and there. But he really broke out in that national title game. And if he can keep that going heading into next year, then we'll be in good shape. We lose Javon Wims, which was our number one receiver from last year. He's gone. So if Ridley can replace the production Wims gave us, and then we still have Terry Godwin, we still have Mecole Hardman, we have some freshmen from last year that didn't play, Matt Landers, who's a 6'6" guy, Jeremiah Holloman, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", speed guy. So we've got some talent at the wide receiver position, so we'll see. But anyway, thanks for the call, and good luck to your Gators this year, except for during the cocktail party. I hope they get absolutely humiliated. Other than that, I hope they do good. Anyway, that's it for today. I appreciate y'all watching and or listening to the Uncle Lou Show live. Again, we do this every Monday and Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Luann comes to tell you the good morning there. Yeah, Luann tells you good morning there. Just got home from school. But anyway, thanks for watching. We do this every Monday and Wednesday at the same time, 3 o'clock Eastern. Phone calls, guests, sports talk. And then Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 10. We also have a live show. It's way different than this one. It's not as structured or anything as this one is. I stream NCAA 2014 on the Xbox with updated rosters. So I have the current rosters for all the teams, and we just stream different games and just talk football. I play against the viewers. I have a season going on there, different things like that. So join us here every Monday and Wednesday at 3 Eastern. Join us Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern for the nightly live streams, and, of course, videos uploaded all throughout the week. Like, comment, subscribe if you're not already. If you're not already subscribed, I don't know what's wrong with you. That's just completely ridiculous. You should have been done that a long time ago. This channel's been around for 4 years. There's no reason for you not to be subscribed already. So if you're not, remedy that problem immediately, or even sooner if any way possible you can. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. Have a great day and an even better morning.